Good day, everyone. Now let's continue the chapter 6, the human and urbanization. So today we will talking about how does a population's age structure affects its growth and or decline, and what are some ways to slow human population growth. So let's see what's the answers. How does a population's age structure affect its growth or decline? The numbers of males and females in young, middle, and older age groups determine how fast a population grows or declines. Now, let's talk about a population's age structure help us to make projections. An important factor determining whether the population of a country increases or decreases is its age structure, which is the numbers or percentages of males and females in young, middle, and older age groups in that population. Population experts construct a population age structure diagram by plotting the percentages or numbers of males and females in the total population in each of three age categories. First is pre-reproductive, which is ages to 0 to 14, consisting of individuals normally too young to have children. Next is reproductive, which is ages 15 to 44, consisting of those normally able to have children. And lastly, post-reproductive, which ages 45 and older, within individuals normally too old to have children. A country with a large percentage of its people younger than age 15 will experience rapid population growth unless death rates rise sharply. Because of this demographic momentum, the number of births in such a country will rise for several decades, even if women have an average of only one or two children each, due to the large number of girls entering their prime reproductive years. Most future human population growth will take place in less developed countries because of their typical youthful age structure and rapid population growth rates. The global population of seniors, people who are 65 and older, is projected to triple between 2013 and 2050, when one of every six people will be a senior. This graying of the world's population is due largely to declining birth rates and medical advances that have extended lifespans. In 2013, the three nations with the largest senior populations, which is by percentage of their total population, were Japan is 25%, Germany is 21%, and Italy is 21%. In such countries, the number of working adults is shrinking in proportion to the number of seniors, which in turn is slowing the growth of tax revenues in these countries. This raises questions about how such societies will support their growing populations of seniors. Now, let's move on the case study, which is the American baby boom. Changes in the distribution of countries' age groups have long-lasting economic and social impacts. For example, consider the American baby boom, which added 79 million people to the US population between 1946 and 1964. Over time, this group looks like a bulge moving up through the country's age structure. For decades, members of the baby boom generation have strongly influenced the US economy because they make up about 36% of all adult Americans. Baby boom created the youth market in their teens and 20s and are now creating the late middle age and senior markets. In addition to having this economic impact, the baby boom generation plays an increasingly important role in deciding who gets elected to public office and what laws are passed or weakened. Since 2011, When the first baby boomers began turning 65, the number of Americans older than the age 65 has grown at the rate of about 10,000 a day and will do so through 2030. This process has been called the graying of America. As the number of working adults declines in proportion to the number of seniors, there may be political pressure from the baby boomers to increase tax revenues to help support the growing senior population. This could lead to economic and political conflicts between older and younger Americans. Aging populations can be declined rapidly. As the percentage of people aged 65 or older increases, more countries will begin experiencing population declines. If population decline is gradual, its harmful effects usually can be managed. However, some countries are experiencing fairly rapid declines and feeling such effects more severely. Japan has the world's highest percentage of elderly people, which is above age 65, and the world's lowest percentage of young people, which is below age 15. In 2013, Japan's population was 127 million. By 2050, its population is projected to be 97 million, a 24% drop. As its population declines, there will be fewer adults working and paying taxes to support an increasing elderly population. Because Japan discourages immigration, this could threaten its economic future. So, these are some problems with rapid population decline. First is can threaten economic growth, labor shortages, less government revenues with fewer workers, less entrepreneurship and new business formations, less likelihood for new technology development, increasing public deficits to fund higher pension and healthcare costs. Pensions may be cut and retirement age increased. Countries with rapid declining populations, in addition to Japan, include Germany, Italy, Bulgaria, Hungary, Serbia, Greece, and Portugal. Other countries facing population declines in the not too distant future are Thailand and South Korea. Population declines are very difficult to reverse. So there's a question. What are some ways to slow human population growth? Well, we can slow human population growth by reducing poverty through economic development, elevating the status of women, and encouraging family planning. Promoting economic development can stabilize a population. There is controversy over whether we should slow population growth. Many analysts have argued that because population growth can be linked to environmental degradation, we need to slow population growth in order to reduce such degradation. These experts have suggested several ways to do this, one of which is to reduce poverty through economic development. Demographers examining the birth and death rates of Western European countries that became industrialized during the 20th century have developed a hypothesis on population change known as the demographic transition. As countries become industrialized and economically developed, their per capita income rise, poverty declines, and their population tend to grow more slowly. There are four stages of demographic transition. Stage 1, pre-industrial. Population grows very slowly because of a high birth rate, which is to compensate for high infant mortality and a high death rate. Next is stage 2, transitional. Population grows rapidly because birth rates are high and death rates drop because of improved food production and health. Stage 3, industrial. Population growth slows as both birth and death rates drop because of improved food production, health, and education. Stage 4. Post-industrial. Population growth levels off and then declines as birth rates equal and then fall below death rates. Some analysts believe that most of the world's less developed countries will make demographic transition over the next few decades, primarily because newer technologies will help them to develop economically and to reduce poverty by raising their per capita incomes. Other analysts fear that rapid population growth, extreme poverty, and increasing environmental degradation and resource depletion could leave some low income, less developed countries stuck in stage 2 of the demographic transition. This highlights the need to reduce poverty as a key to improving human health and stabilizing the population. Empowerment of women tends to slow population growth. A number of studies show that the women tend to have fewer children if they are educated, have the ability to control their own fertility, earn an income of their own, and live in societies that do not suppress their rights. Although women make up roughly half of the world's population, in most societies, they have fewer rights and educational and economic opportunities than men have. Women do almost all of the world's domestic work and childcare for little or no pay and provide more unpaid healthcare just within their families than do all of the world's organized healthcare services combined. In rural areas of Africa, Latin America, and Asia, women do 60 to 80% of the world associated with growing food, hauling water and gathering and holding wood, and animal dung for use as fuel. As one Brazilian woman observed, for poor women, the only holiday is when you are asleep. While women account for 66% of all hours work, they receive only 10% of the world's income and own just 2% of the world's land. They also make up 70% of the world's poor and 66% of its 80 million illiterate adults. Poor women who cannot read often have an average of 5 to 7 children compared to 2 or fewer children in societies where almost all women can read. This points to the need to see that all children get at least an elementary school education. Coupling this with a free school lunch program for the poorest children could encourage poor families to send their children to school while improving their children's ability to study and learn. A growing number of women in less developed countries are taking charge of their lives and reproductive behavior. As it expands, such bottom-up change driven by individual women will play an important role in stabilizing populations, improving human health, reducing poverty and environmental degradation, and allowing more access to basic human rights. So, some argue for promoting family planning. Family planning involves the provision of education and clinical services that can help couples to choose how many children to have and when to have them. Such programs vary from culture to culture, but most of them provide information on birth spacing, birth control, and health care pregnant women and infants. Family planning enables women to limit the size of their families if they wish to do so and to plan their pregnancies. According to study by the UN Population Division and other population agencies, family planning has been a major factor in reducing the number of unintended pregnancies and births, the number of safe and unsafe abortions, the number of mothers and fetuses dying during pregnancies, rates of infant mortality, rates of HIV or AIDS infection, and population growth rates. It also has financial benefits. Studies have shown that each dollar spent on family planning in countries such as Thailand, Egypt, and Bangladesh saves $10 to $16 in health, education, and social services caused by preventing unwanted births. Another case study, slowing population growth in India. For 6 decades, India has tried to control its population growth with only modest success. The world's first national family planning program began in India in 1952, when its population was nearly 400 million. In 2013, after 61 years of population control efforts, India had 1.28 billion people, the world's second largest population, and a TFR of 2.4. Much of this increase occurred because the country's declining death rates. In 1952, India added 5 million people to its population. In 2013, it added 19 million, more than any other country. The United Nations projects that by 2030, India will be the world's most populous country, and that by 2050, it will have a population of 1.65 billion.
India has the world's fourth largest economy and a rapidly growing middle class of more than 100 million people, a number nearly equal to a third of the US population. However, the country faces serious poverty, malnutrition, and environmental problems that could worsen as its population continues to grow rapidly. About one fourth of all people in India's cities live in slums, and prosperity and progress have not touched hundreds of millions of Indians who live in rural villages, with 400 million people earning less than $1.25 per day. India is home to one third of the world's poor. Nearly half of the country's labor force is unemployed or underemployed. There are two factors help to account for larger families in India. First, most poor couples believe they need several children to work and care for them in their old age. Second, the strong cultural preference in India for male children means that some couples keep having children until they produce one or more boys. The result, even though 90% of India couples have access to at least one modern birth control method, only about 47% actually use one. India is undergoing rapid economic growth, which is expected to accelerate over the next few decades. This will help many people in India, but it will also put increasing pressure on the countries and the Earth's natural capital as rates of per capita resource use rise. India already faces serious soil erosion, overgazing, water pollution, and the air pollution problems. On the other hand, economic growth may help India to slow its population growth by accelerating its demographic transition. Another case study, slowing population growth in China. China is the world's most populous country with 1.36 billion people in 2013. In 2011, the US Census Bureau projected that its current trends continue. China's population is expected to decline to about 1.3 billion by 2050 and to as low as 750 million by the end of this century. In the 1960s, China's large population was growing so rapidly that there was a serious threat of mass starvation. To avoid this, government officials took measures to eventually lead to the establishment of the world's most extensive, intrusive, and strict family planning and birth control program. The goal has been to be sharply reduce population growth and avoid mass starvation and social upheaval by promoting one-child families. The government provides contraceptives, sterilizations, and abortions for married couples. In addition, married couples pledging to have no more than one child receive a number of benefits, including better housing, more food,
free healthcare, salary bonuses, and preferential job opportunities for their child. Couples who break their pledge lose such benefits. Since this government control program began, China has made impressive efforts to feed its people and bring its population growth under control. Between 1972 and 2013, the country cut its birth rate in half and reduced its TFR from 5.7 to 1.5. China's population is growing more slowly than the US population, even if legal immigration included. Although China has avoided mass starvation, its strict population control program has been accused of violating human rights. Since 1980, China has undergone rapid industrialization and economic growth. According to the Earth Policy Institute, between 1990 and 2010, this process reduced the number of people living in extreme poverty by almost 500 million. It has also helped at least 300 million Chinese, a number almost equal to the entire US population, to become middle class consumers. Over time, China's rapidly growing middle class will consume more resources per person, expanding China's ecological footprint within its own borders and in other parts of the world that provide it with resources. The this will put a strain on China's and the Earth's natural capital, like India. China faces serious soil erosion, overgrazing, water pollution, and air pollution problems. Because of its one-child policy, during the past 2 decades, the average age of China's population has been increasing at one of the fastest rates ever produced. In 2012, there were 194 million Chinese people aged 60 and over, the largest number of people in this age group of all the world's countries. While China's population is not yet declining, the UN estimates that by 2030, the country is likely to have too few young workers to support its rapidly aging population. This graying of the Chinese population could lead to a declining workforce, limited funds for supporting continued economic development, and fewer children and grandchildren to care for the growing number of elderly people. These concerns and other factors may slow China's economic growth and led to some relaxation of the country's one-child population control policy. So, that would be all. Thank you. This is Romfield Jude A. Ayuban, your reporter. Now I'll give the floor to the next reporter.